You'll be happy to hear that the number of video games out there that have physically injured players is small, but it's not zero. Some, like Arm Spirit, an arm wrestling game, were just recipes for disaster. Rhythm games like Dance Dance Revolution could have their own blooper reel due to their kinetic nature. The Nintendo Wii caused a few trips to the ER from overzealous players, and I'd be remiss not to mention the original Mario Party, whose spin the analog stick minigame caused what can only be described as Mario Party stigmata, as well as a settlement from Nintendo that included gloves sent out to afflicted players. But there is only one game that actually has made it into the Guinness Book of World Records for the injuries it caused, and that game is Sonic Blast Man, released by Taito into arcades in 1990. Now, let me paint a scenario for you. Let's say you're on a hot date at the bowling alley and you really want to impress the girl with your macho bullshit. Before you stands an arcade game where the point is to put on a boxing glove and punch the ever-loving shit out of a mechanical punch pad that corresponds to some of the most absurdly over-the-top macho power fantasies that could possibly exist on screen. Punching a meteor that's about to destroy Earth? Step aside, darling, and let the courtship ritual commence. Now, I don't need to tell you that even playing this game properly resulted in some pretty nasty injuries. Sprained wrists, broken arms. I probably also don't need to tell you that a few overzealous bros chose to play gloveless, or even worse, jump kick or headbutt the punch pad. What's worse is the padding on the punch pad would gradually wear down, exposing the steel bar, leading to more injuries. How they could not have predicted this is beyond me. Well, a class action lawsuit in the United States was the death knell for Sonic Blast Man, leading to its eventual recall from arcades all across the country. And wait, hold on a second, this is a Super Nintendo channel. Why am I telling you about an arcade game when... Oh no. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. How... Okay, you know what? Pop it in, let's see how this thing can possibly exist. Okay. Sonic Blast Man for the Super Nintendo, developed by ITL, published by Taito, and released in 1992. I bet a lot of people rented this game and then thought, wait, what am I supposed to punch? There's no dongle or peripheral that comes with it, and it's not listed as a two-player game, so you can't even punch your sibling. Oh, well, will you look at that? It's actually a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you play as Sonic Blast Man and only Sonic Blast Man. No character select screen here, just the eponymous dude walking around beating up thugs. Okay, that's pretty funny, but makes you wonder, if they wanted to switch up the genre entirely, why even bother using this character at all when they could have just made an entirely new property, or at least given it a different title, Sonic Blast Man Streets of Fury or something. Or add some more characters, Sonic Blast Man and Friends. But alas, it's a one-player beat-em-up, so you and you alone play as Sonic Blast Man as he works his way through 5 different levels, punching, throwing, and doing whatever this is to a whole onslaught of enemies. Looks like he's shaking the sand off a beach towel. It's fine, I suppose, and I guess there are a few things worth pointing out. Each level actually has its own unique set of enemies, which is an interesting design choice. It kind of limits the variety within each level, but the good news is, if there is an enemy you hate, you can be confident you will never see them again after you beat the level. Each stage also ends with a boss fight, including this one that's a big alien broodmother of sorts that you can only hit by throwing its own spawn at it. The levels themselves sometimes just seem to go on forever though. It gets pretty tedious and you'll be working your way through the level, watching your lives deplete, wondering when the hell it's gonna end. The last level in particular is just an endless gauntlet of the exact same enemy over and over again. Games like King of Dragons and Captain Commando keep the levels tight and varied, whereas Sonic Blast Man levels can just feel like one big slog. But you'll be happy to know that the original punching game does make an appearance in between levels where you can choose any of the 5 scenarios from the arcade as a sort of bonus level, and they are just as fantastically stupid and hilarious as their arcade counterpart. You've got this scenario where you have to pummel some street punk until the shirt comes off. The absurdity takes a sharp uptick from there. Next you're punching trucks to save babies, and can we all get real for a moment and agree that Sonic Blast Man just murdered the driver of this truck? Here, let me adjust the victory screen. There we go. From there, you're leveling skyscrapers, walloping giant crabs, and absolutely starching that giant meteor. All amazing scenarios that would have your body coursing with testosterone if it weren't for the dinky interface that's less about brute strength and more about rotating the D-pad and having good timing. I mean, I'm thrilled that literally the entirety of the arcade game made its way into this version, but it's disappointing the way you have to play it. But I guess I now understand why they had to make the beat-em-up portions, because this alone as an SNES game would be a big fat 0 out of 10. Overall, the design gets a bit more than that, but not much. Okay, time to go over some gameplay basics. Sonic Blast Man controls like your typical beat 'em up with an attack and a jump button. It also has two different moves that you can pull out if you find yourself in a pinch. One is this typical spin maneuver that takes out everyone around you, but results in Mr. Blast Man being dazed for a few seconds. This other move is a screen clearer, which you can only use 3 times per life, which is actually quite generous. You can also pick up enemies and throw them in different directions, which helps you keep control of their position. I did find the throwing a little weak though. You're not taking off Final Fight levels of health when you toss someone here, just a dinky shred. It's also worth noting that when you start landing punches on a guy, you will eventually pick them up and, depending on what you press on the D-pad, deliver a fancy combo ender of sorts, like this hilarious shit right here. Sure, it's funny and all, but you learn little tricks like how if you cluster enemies together, you can sort of punch them endlessly without ever triggering the combo ender, which drains their health way faster. I don't think this was intended though. Also, watching the footage, you probably noticed that this game is very, very sluggish. My goodness, Sonic Blast Man moves like he's caked in taffy. The only way to move quickly is by jumping, and oddly enough, the only point of jumping is to move quickly, because otherwise jumping is quite useless. Jump attacks are weak and hard to land, and enemies can skillfully knock you out of the air, so it's better to just stay on the ground and slug it out sluggishly. It also doesn't help that on top of the sluggishness, you have to deal with slowdown. Ugh. You probably already know what I'm going to say about the bonus games in between levels, and yeah, they play terribly. I do not derive any enjoyment from rotating my thumb on a D-pad, watching this stubborn gauge work its way up while I progressively get more exhausted. Then I have to focus on pushing B when this icon is over the target, and in doing so, I falter on my D-pad spinning, and really, it's absolutely no fun at all. Take me back to the sluggish fighting, please. Looking at the graphics objectively might be tricky because I am so bloody charmed by how goofy and hilarious the vibe of this game is. Look at this shit! Was that train expertly rendered? I have no clue. I was just focusing on the fact that Sonic Blast Man ratcheted his whole goddamn arm around before pounding it into the next millennia. There's just this whole macho Japanese vibe that revels in its own absurdity. I mean, look at this guy. What in God's name could possibly be the purpose of all this crap he's wearing? He looks like Jesse Ventura in The Running Man. What's on his head? The peak of this absurdity is naturally during the bonus stages, where you can see your targets at various stages of destruction. Take that. But you know what? This kinda looks bad. Look at the trees. Jeez, they almost pulled the wool over our eyes with the flashy absurdity, but ultimately it does look like a mid-tier early SNES game after all. Now, one thing I will say about the fighting stages is that the sprites are nice and big, and that does up the score significantly. And like I said, we get a whole new set of enemies for each level, meaning you won't stop getting treated to new wacky enemies to hit with the big ol' bagoom. Level design is a bit boring though. Sure, they made sure every boss had some kind of Mode 7 effect going on in the background, but generic doesn't even begin to describe the levels. The last beat 'em up I reviewed was Captain Commando, and that game had some absolutely wild backgrounds. This? Well, have a look. So a double-edged sword here when it comes to graphics. Big wacky sprites alongside a bit of blandness, alongside a bit of ugliness. How about the audio? Well, it's interesting. Have a listen to this song from the second level of the game and see if you have the exact same observation as me. Okay, so, did you say Mega Man? Because wow, I sure thought that. I mean, at least they picked a good soundtrack to emulate. You can call it unoriginal, but at least it's catchy. Listen to level 4. My goodness, this sounds like it's been lifted straight from the NES. It's a bit retrograde, but thankfully the bassline is making use of the sound chip and doing some serious heavy lifting. God damn! Bootsy Collins, is that you? With sound effects for a beat 'em up, there is only one real sound that matters, and that's the sound it makes when you punch a guy, and Sonic Blast Man delivers in this area. That crunchy slap is perfect, and you get that visceral satisfaction from pummeling dudes. Other fighting sounds like the grunt of the dudes and the "take that" vocal sample are great, although I didn't need a sound effect for him jumping. I don't know why that bothers me so much. The punches during the bonus levels sound different depending on what you're hitting, but they're unremarkable. It would have been nice if they used different sounds for how hard you hit, but you know what? I hate the bonus levels anyway, so who cares? So another double-edged sword with the audio. Damn, who knows what score this game's gonna get? is this a game worth picking up and adding to your SNES collection? Well, let's start with one thing it has going for it. You're never going to see this game anywhere else. Not now, not ever. The SNES is the only official way to play it, so pick it up if that means anything to you. And, that may be the only thing it has going for it. It costs $35, which I wouldn't exactly classify as cheap, and it's a one-player game you could beat in an hour. Very little replay value. Sorry, Sonic Blast Man, you're kind of a dud. If you're looking for a beat-em-up game that scratches the same goofy itch, plays well, and allows you to bring a friend, you cannot go wrong with something like Turtles in Time, or find a way to play any of the other excellent arcade beat-em-ups of the era. But I want to take a moment to mention that some bloody how this game actually got a sequel on the SNES. Sonic Blast Man 2, and the only explanation I could think of is that maybe the first game was a hit in Japan, so they made a sequel and then figured, oh, why the hell not, and localized it to North America. Otherwise, I can't say anyone here wanted this thing. But guess what? It's way better. Faster gameplay, multiple characters to choose, and a 2-player mode. Damn, maybe you should pick this one up instead. Whoa, okay, maybe not. So, I tried my best with this one, and by God, I can't seem to justify anything higher than a 5.4 out of 10. Yes, the whimsy and spectacle may produce a few scraps of enjoyment, but Sonic Blast Man ultimately is a sluggish and depleted non-port that will just make you want to punch something. Have fun.
Butcher Collins here, and I'd like to tell you about the Sonic Blast Man. He's from outer space and can run real fast, and don't even have to chase. He saves people by the bunches, hitting them real hard with them funked up punches. He winds his arm up and punches a train. By the looks on his face, he'll never do that again. By the power of the one, Mr. Sonic Blast Man, you gets everything done. Yeah. By the power of the one. Yeah. Shout out to Motron. Yeah, ask your mama.